Alright, here's what I want you to see. This is the lovely value scale that I've asked you to make on whichever slide it was that had that. Beneath it you have like some more of these value scales with beautiful lines, and at the bottom you split your page in half and then in half the opposite direction, right? Because you're going to put other things here. But for now I'm just worried about this one up here. So what happens is I want you to have 6 steps in your value scale. This one is going to be the stepped value scale. Okay, stepped. What that means is you're going to divide it in 6. So the easiest way is divide it in half and then divide each of those kind of into thirds. Doesn't need to be exactly perfect. If you want it to be perfect, you should get a ruler. I'm trying to do it quickly, so I'm not going to go grab one. The next thing I want you to see is I'm using a mechanical pencil because you all enjoy mechanical pencils, and that's the one you most often have in your backpack. It's better and easier to do if you use an actual pencil because the lead itself lends itself better to the practice of art making. However, you can get by with a mechanical pencil. Things you should notice. 1, you cannot hold it like you were in math class and doing math equations with the tip of your pencil. That's not going to work. What happens is you get lines that are very, I'll show you, lines that are very thin, okay, and that also do this thing where, like, if this is a paper, right, and you use a really thin line, you get a divot that fills in with your lead, okay, instead of putting lead on top of the paper. So in order to avoid that, right, what we want is to hold our pencil way back here, okay, past where the little grippy things are, way towards the back, almost at the very, very, very end of the pencil, and hold it to the side. Okay, when I hold it to the side, I can get softer lines and they start to get thicker when I draw them, right? This line is much thicker than the first one that I drew, and I have more control over what I'm doing with that pencil, right? You can see how I can press really lightly now. When I hold it up here, I don't have that much control. It's always kind of dark. So, a couple of tips. Next, the easiest way to do this, right, is going to be to start with the darkest one. Okay, so this is going to be my dark, and then this one's going to be my light. For my light, I'm just going to leave it white for now. Okay, I don't need to put anything there. That is just going to be the white piece of paper that you have. Okay, for the dark, I'm going to recommend, right, that you take your time and move slowly so that you fill in all of the spaces. Okay, and you go one way, and then notice I've gotten all the way to the edge of this line, all the way to the edge of this line, and almost to the edge of all of those. Okay, in order to fix all that little fuzziness, I can come back the other way to kind of fill in the opposite direction of the paper. Okay, that's not quite as dark as it maybe should be, so I'm going to keep going back and adding layers. And if you add layers, you're going to get smooth shading, as opposed to if you try to do the darkness really, really hard the first time you go over it. It's not going to look as nice. Okay, but if I keep going back with more and more layers, I will get the darkness that I'm looking for without creating any extra divots in my paper. Okay, so that's my dark one. The next step is going to be to try and work my way to the lightness. Okay, so I'm going to come into the next square and do the same thing I did with the last one. All of my marks go the same direction. You can kind of tell when I'm doing this, my pencil makes circles like this. Okay, that will help you get really even marks. Okay, and it will help you with control if you're not lifting your pencil up each time you get to one side or the other. If you make circles, really big long ovals, okay, you can get to the edge of whatever box you're trying to fill, and then you can go back and your hand will start to mirror that motion again and again and again and again. Okay, and so when I think that I've reached about a step between here and here, I'm going to move on to the next one. And I'm going to keep doing the same thing, making circular motions one way and then coming back and doing the same thing the other way. Notice that when I do that too, my craftsmanship is very nice. I have a few tiny little pieces that come out, but because I pressed lightly the whole time, I can erase those. You can't even tell they were there. Okay, and I can move on and get all of my craftsmanship points. if you go ahead and press crazy hard to try and get those values without going back and forth and back and forth, you're not going to be able to erase like that, okay? And you're going to lose points on craftsmanship, which is what this particular part of the assignment is going to be graded on. But all of that is in the PowerPoint, so you should kind of know that before you start. The harder ones are going to be down here, okay, towards the end, and you might only go over them once or twice in order to get the value. And the idea is that your pencil is barely even like kissing the paper. It's like a butterfly landing on a flower, maybe, is a good metaphor, in order to get that value, okay? And then you can see I've gone from light to dark very, very gradually all the way across, okay? And each one is very nice and smooth and looks nice, and I didn't have to use my finger to rub on the paper.